All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the Rebuilding America podcast. I guess that's what we're going to call it, considering I filed a trademark on the name about 6 months ago, and have had lawyers coming after me saying I don't own rights to it, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the government says I do. So,
Lawyers?
Yeah, lawyers.
When?
They just sent me letters a couple days ago.
What lawyers?
Out of Phoenix.
Oh.
Like, you're not going to get approved for some stupid stuff or whatever. So the whole purpose of this podcast, I shoot videos for contracting companies, mainly electrical infrastructure companies, and I want to bring on, mainly people in the energy infrastructure space, so linemen, and people who work in different energy sectors, I guess, renewable energies, distribution, how you create power, which is many different sources, and we can have professionals on in the future talking about different sources like solar and hydro and wind. Obviously those efficiencies. So today's guest is Austin Laulainen. He's actually my brother. Yeah, round of applause. He is a journeyman lineman. Journeyman, right? You topped out 7 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
pretty new to the game.
Basically, the main reason for this podcast I need to put on my website because it helps with SEO rankings, and curious what Austin has to say. I also do quite a bit of research, obviously, in different groups on Facebook and whatnot, and I see a bunch of younger individuals, 18, 19-year-old kids, who want to get into a trade, and they've noticed linemen. They don't know where to start, though, what direction to get into, and 5 years ago, that was you, right?
Yeah, after graduating high school in 2015, and then I figured you got to get on track to do something. Right, I did. I wasn't one to just loaf around and just work piddly jobs. I want to get a career, and we have a few cousins that are in the trade, so I asked minimal questions, kind of got an idea of what it's all about. Did my own research. You can find a lot of stuff on Google, but we could just get into how I got started with it, because that's probably one of the main things for the younger generation or the upcoming generation that is looking to get into the trade. So for me, after graduating high school, I pretty much knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a journeyman lineman, and that was the mentality that I had and I started with. But I didn't really know how I was going to get to that point. So just by, talking to my cousins who are linemen, or they're in the trade, they were apprentices at the time, they helped me out, getting started. Kind of direction they gave me was to look into line school. And this is something we'll talk about a little bit later too, that I have my pros and cons about line school. This is just how I ended up doing it. So anyhow, after graduating, I just worked kind of a piddly job through the summer. I applied for a line school in Spokane, Washington. There's a utility out there, Vista Utilities. They put on a line school. I know there's plenty of other line schools out there. There's Northwest Lineman College, was probably the most popular one. There's Lazy Q Line, the Lazy Q Quanta Services one down in Texas. There's Volta, which is on the West Coast, not too far, actually close to where I grew up. There's plenty of them out there all over the country. You could just do your research on them. And I just chose the one in Spokane because I figured it'd be a good opportunity for me to leave my hometown and, go to school outside of my comfort zone. I knew people that lived in Spokane, which helped, but I just wanted to get out of my comfort zone and experience it for myself. So anyways, I applied, and it takes time. After I applied there, you sign up, and then they basically register you in the system, and you go, and they have you take like a simple math test, and then kind of like a comprehension, like hands-on test, just kind of see where you land and all the things, and then based off your scores, they get back after you, once they test everybody who had applied for that next coming class. And they only accept, I don't know how much there was, like 35 or 40 people, I think, in my class. I can't remember maybe it was close to 50. I can't remember how many people they accept per class. But anyways, it's not it's not a huge number of people because they like to have a smaller class so they can focus on each student individually more if they need to, versus having a big class. It's hard to get with everyone, and then just you need more instructors and more equipment and everything. So anyways, I ended up passing the math test and the hands-on test and whatever, and then they said, congratulations, blah, 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 you've been accepted to line school. So I said, cool. And it started like in January, like 2016, like beginning of the year sometime. So they kind of walk you through. Once you get accepted, they help you get started. So one thing I liked about this school was they gave you the offer, if you wanted to get your Class A CDL, which is one of the biggest things any person, whoever is looking to get into the trade, is to get their Class A CDL. And that's something I didn't have. I was only 18 at the time when I applied, 19 when I started at the school. And like a Class A CDL, I wasn't even really sure what that was up until I started looking to get into the trades. So once I started school, I moved to Spokane. At that time, I believe school was, I can't remember what schooling was altogether, but between schooling and buying tools and equipment and paying for the CDL, it turned out to be around 10 grand. So, at 18, 19, I ended up taking a $12,000 loan out, just a personal loan. My parents had to co-sign, of course, because at 18, 19, you're not going to have any credit unless for some reason, you started off young with a credit card and you're able to build credit, but who does that? You know what I mean? So, and that was a good incentive for me to, if I have a loan, that means I need to find a job as soon as I'm done with line school, or even work during line school if I could, help pay that loan payment per month and whatnot. So, anyways, I got the loan, I paid for the school. And the schooling was January, February, March, April. I think January through April. So it was like 4 months long about.
Was it only 4 months? It felt way longer than that.
Yeah, it was like 4 months, I think. January, February, March, April.
Isn't there a main service? Who's the utility there? Because aren't they partnered with that?
Yeah, it's a Vista. It is their
Vista.
school. They put it on.
Yeah.
So Vista Utilities is the utility out there, and they do have their own training camp because they have their own apprentices and stuff. So they put on this pre-apprenticeship program at their training facility, and they have everything there. They have pull yards, they have all the equipment, tools, and everything. And it's a great school. They got great classroom experience and stuff like that. So anyways, yeah, I went through the line school, and I wasn't really sure what to expect out of line school. I just knew that line school is something that could help me figure out what the trade is all about. And then, like I said, getting my CDL, and then I got all my climbing gear and stuff like that. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. And basically, through those 4 months of things, I got my CDL. I learned how to climb. For the most part, I got a really good idea of how to climb. And then they briefly go over through a lot what the trade is about. I mean, the trade there's so much to learn about the trade. If you're not constantly learning something every day, then you're doing something wrong, because there's so much to learn about it. Like, it's just not possible to learn about everything linemen do, in a 4 month period. It's just not possible. So they try their best to kind of help teach, and give you an overview of what the trade is all about. And for the most part, like I said, the climbing, and we did, a little bit of work, and just kind of like what is to be expected, coming out of line school. They kind of helped you where to apply, taught you about union stuff, signing the books, and all that kind of stuff. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. So through that 4 month period, it's kind of like a job. You show up. I showed up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was there till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you put in what you get out, what you put into the school too. I mean, if you just show up with the crappy mentality, then you're not going to learn as much, but you go in willing to learn and whatnot. And then, you get what you put in. So I put in a lot. It's something I really was interested in. 10 grand down, to go to line school. It's like I'm not going to waste this opportunity. So, once I passed school and everything, and it's a great thing too to like learn about the trade, because there's guys that were there, and in the first week they have this thing they call it Hell Week. I don't know. They're trying to like relate it to like how the military they have Hell
Navy
Week.
SEALs, yeah.
Navy SEALs, but basically it's just a week of they teach you how to climb, and that's all you do for a week straight. I don't know. They might have changed it now, but that's how it was when I went through. It was just a week of straight climbing. My shins were destroyed because just climbing all day, every day. And it was kind of like, well, is this something you want to do? If not, then, and if you were to drop out or quit the school within the first week, you'd get your full refund back.
Mm-hmm. So they're qualifying you, basically.
What's that?
They're qualifying you, to say, hey, it's a dangerous trade, it's a tough trade.
Yeah, so like that's what they want to do. It's like, okay, like a lot of the trade is climbing. When you're an apprentice, you climb a lot. You don't hardly ever get to go in the bucket truck, or at least I didn't, and that was something they want to just like push through, is like climb, and get proficient in doing it. And there are some guys that they thought they could do it, and then they realized, a few days in, they weren't a big fan of the heights, and all the factors that go into it. And they end up dropping out, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, you go into it thinking it's something you want to do, and then a couple days in, you're thinking, no, this isn't something I want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's better to figure that out early on and not waste, the 4 months just being like, yeah, I think this is something I want to do, or I think this fits for me, and then spending all the money and then not getting anything in return, and be like, okay, figuring out that it's not something you want to do. Right. It's like, that's a good...
Yeah. But, so, what's that alternate route? Because something that I've noticed, very, very, a lot on social media, as far as scrolling through comment sections and kind of interacting with some different younger people trying to get in the trade, is the whole CDL thing. So, a lot of them don't have CDLs, and they're always asking where to get started. Do you start with CDL? Because I know you've worked with some people in the past, or since you've journeyed out, where they, they're grunts and they don't have their CDL. And I know linemen absolutely hate a grunt or a groundman who doesn't have the CDL. So what's that look like? Is that one of the most important things that you got to have?
Yeah, so it's not that they don't have your CDL, because you... typically, basically, you can't get called off. So this is the thing also. So for me, and this is how I like to look at it, is I'm a union journeyman lineman. That's the route I went. I went union. I did all my research. It's something I looked into doing. That's something I want to do. I want to be part of that brotherhood, the IBW. Great. I think everyone should look into that. There is the non-union side is also very big, which I know a few guys that went that route. It's easier to get into and do, I think. I don't want to get like too in-depth about it, but I went union, and that's what I decided to do, and I think everyone should too, just because, you just do your research on unions and figure it out for yourself, really, but it's something I want. So anyways... So you even get called off as a groundman from the union books, whatever books you sign, whether it's IBD 125, 77, 1245. There's hundreds of unions in the country. To basically even get called out, you need to have your Class A CDL. And it's not that those guys I worked with, they didn't have their CDL. They weren't 21 yet, so their CDL was intrastate and not interstate. So legally they couldn't drive with their CDL in New Mexico because their CDL is only good in Oregon. So It's not that they didn't have it, it's just they never transferred it over, so they weren't legal to drive. So that was the whole thing. But yeah, so like Zane was saying, the alternate route to line, or to be getting into the trade, is to not even go to line school. And looking back, honestly, I think I would have rather went this route than going to line school, but it is what it is and it's done. But the other way to do it is, like Zan was saying, is look in, go Google, type in your area, Class A CDL, how to get Class A CDL. There's lots of trucking companies out there, lots of places out there that you can get your Class A CDL. First and foremost, most important thing I think is to get your Class A CDL. And then after that, you can look into getting your flagging permit, your flagger's card. So just go on Google, type in, flagging card class. There's lots of them out there. And then also getting your CPR first aid card. Same thing. Go on Google, type in, I need to get my first aid CPR card. And a bunch of things will pop up. And you click and there's
I took that class with you, actually.
There's classes all the time. People are always putting, fire stations put them on. There's private sectors that put them on. Sneaking medical facilities, clinics. There are a lot of places put them on. So I think those are the three most important things, like just looking to get into the trade started. And then once I feel like you have those, and you need some hand tools and stuff, but you can get that stuff once you get in. That stuff you can just go to Home Depot or wherever and buy them. You just go to your local union or wherever you're living or wherever you want to travel around. You go sign union books, and you go into the unions, to the union hall, and you sign the groundman book. You just ask the lady or whoever's working there, hey, I'd like to sign the groundman book. And you sign it, and they'll ask you, like your certifications you have and whatnot, all of that. You write that in, and then when it comes time, that hall is looking for a groundman. They'll start at the top of the list, and they'll call each person down the list. And if no one above you takes it, then they're going to call you, and then you decide whether you want to take it or not. It's pretty cut and dry. It's pretty easy to do. Sometimes there's a wait. Sometimes if work's popping, then you might get a call in a week or the next day. You just don't know. It's always up and down. So
say, Zane here, I have my Class A CDL, my flaggers, card, and my CPR certification, but I don't care to go into the union. I want to work on the non-union side of the contractor, a contractor company that's non-union. If I have those certifications, can I just cold call, find the job soup, or cold call, whoever on the job site, and they might take me on a groundman if they need one?
So, like I said, I'm not that familiar with the non-union side. I haven't educated myself that much on that. But as far as I know, like you can literally, like you've done, you can go on Facebook and look up lineman jobs.
Go on lineman jobs on Facebook. If you're looking for a job, there's tons of them out right now.
A lot of those are non-union jobs. So, like, basically they'll even give you phone numbers to call. Hey, we're looking for a groundman, or hey, we're looking for. They have like different class linemen. They have like A class, B class, C class, and yeah. So I feel like it's a little bit easier to get in on that side of things, but I don't really know for sure because like I said, I haven't really done my research on that side of the non-union side just because I'm pretty strict about being a union member.
If you're looking to get in the trade, Class A CDLs first. You want your flagger's card, right? And then CPR certification.
CPR first aid, yeah.
CPR first aid. And then if you want to go union, sign the books, right? And if not, then you can just start cold calling, whoever. Even if you sign the books and you're looking for jobs that are non-union for the time being to keep you afloat, there's so many of them on lineman jobs right now. There's 100 postings every day looking for just grunts, people to kind of take up that busy work that they don't want the journeyman doing, because that's something. All right, so moving on. Obviously I know you, but I've never even asked you this question. I know you've worked on some pretty cool job sites and with some pretty cool companies, but what would be your favorite job that you've worked on to date? Would it be Wilson Construction, Columbia, way out in the middle of the boomsticks, or?
I don't know. That's actually a pretty difficult question because there's just too many jobs or things you go do. But I think the coolest thing, and it's not really a specific job, I think the coolest thing I've done or been a part of is doing storm work. I've been on a handful of storms like in the Northwest where I went through my apprenticeship and worked. They got a lot of pretty nasty winter storms come through, snow, rain, ice, wind, you name it, and it just destroys everything. So I've been on a couple storms where those are really cool. You're working a crap ton of hours. I mean, you're working 40-hour shifts, and then you're working 18 on, 6 off, 18 on, 6 off, 18 on, 6 off until the utility or the property you're working on, they release you from declared storm. So like those jobs are by far the best jobs. I mean, of course you make the most money, but they also mean more. There's like a more of a sentimental value to them. It's like, this storm came through, there's people have been out of power for a week, and you go in, you restore power, and you see these people, they're happy, they're thankful, and then you kind of realize, you step back, and like, this is one of the reasons I'm in this trade is because of that. Like being able to help people, and just be out in the elements, and just doing your thing, and just building power lines, and just having a good time with your crew, and and helping people at the same time. That's got to be the best job. It's not specifically a job, I guess.
Yeah,
but that's the best experience like I've had is working storms. You always meet really cool people. You always see how grateful people are. You
want to tell that story about gratefulness? It was February, right? When Portland got hit with that ice storm?
Oh, yeah.
That story? Is that 2 rated R?
Which one?
Oh, something about his wife putting the power back on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of people that, they say a lot of things, there's also the other side of things, too. People, we've had gun drawn saying, get my power on right now, or else. And it's like,
your hands are tied.
What do you do? It's not like there's a whole step and process to putting the power back on. It's not just like, okay, it's not just plugging in an extension cord. So, there's pros and cons, but at the end of the day, it's all pros. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
all right. Is there any company that you've worked for previously that stood out as far as really taking care of their employees? I know like the biggest thing with linemen is like brother's keeper and whatnot, but I also understand that there's a ton of drama in the trade. As it stands, obviously, I've dealt with my fair share of different kind of contractors at this point. Is there any companies that have stood out that if you're getting into the trade might be a good company to work for to get your toes wet in the water? I know in the beginning you worked with some pretty rough crews.
Well, that's just it. So most companies are pretty good. It just all depends on who's running the show. So you go to different areas, you work in different areas, they have different general foremans, they have different foremans, they have, different supervisors. And really what it comes down to is those guys. Those guys kind of can make or break the area you're working on or the company you're working for, right? Mm-hmm. If you show up to a job and the supervisor, the GF, the guy is a complete dickhole, then it's just going to suck. The company could be a great company to work for, right? They could be a great contractor. They provide you with the tools you need, FR, everything you need, good equipment, everything. But if the supervisor, the GF, is terrible, then it's like that makes or breaks working there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So like previously, I was working for Titan.
Shout out Robbie.
GF is super cool. Really like the GF. He takes care of his guys. He's just super cool. He lets the foreman he gives them a job, lets the foreman do their thing. He ain't, there to overstep anybody. He knows what his role is, and he expects for you to know what your role is too. And everything seemed to just go by smoothly. But then you have other guys who they like to have that big boss mentality where they just like to have control of everything and step over you on every little angle of everything. Don't let you do anything your own way. And it just makes and breaks it. So, I mean, I'm not going to dock on one company or the other. That I'll just say that.
Yeah, that segues into my next question perfectly. Actually, is do you feel that there's anything wrong with the trade as a whole? I know I've done my fair share of research into different problems, and as well as communicating back and forth with a ton of journeymen online, and I'll tell you what they all complain about is OSHA. They absolutely hate OSHA because they think everything is, overly regulated, and, it's complex isn't safe. Complex is dangerous. There's too many rules. But I'm just curious, have you noticed anything in the trade as a whole, you being in the trade for the last 4 years, that doesn't really sit right with you, or is it just kind of the way of the road?
Yeah, it is what it is, but like all these rules are written in blood. So each rule it's written, there's a reason it's written. Yeah, there are stupid rules, I think. Can't name them off the top of my head. I just know there are. But, like for most part, they're all written in blood. So there's a reason those rules are in place. But, I mean,
I've also
it's evolved so much. It's when it started, in the late 1800s. It's like.
So I was just doing my research on a company, and you can't quote me on this, but it might have been Volt Electric. I think they're on the East Coast, and somebody was just saying how they changed their name of their company because their safety record was so bad. But they're a non-union contractor, so I think the union really makes sure that everything is up to code, right? And there's a lot less violations.
That is one benefit, one plus of the union, absolutely. Yeah, there's those written rules. It is a safer. That is one of the things, is to ensure a safer work environment. Everyone goes home, the same way they came to work, right? And every company, whether it's union or non-union, is going to say that, right? That's just how it is. Like literally any company anywhere, right? Who wouldn't? Like literally any company in any trade is going to be like, yeah, of course we want our employees to go home the same way they came to work. So, a safety mentality is everywhere. Safety is a huge thing, but.
All right, so, along with what we think is not wrong, but wrong about the trade, what's right about the trade? And I'll kind of say this, is what I like about the trade most is the pride aspect of it, because it does feel like you are your brother's keeper, unless you're crying Brian and you're useless on a job site. For the most part, especially journeymen, I know if you're a grunt, you have to take it pretty rough. I think that's also the safety part of it, where you need to take these things seriously, because if you touch it down line, you might not be going home that day, or you're going home on a stretcher, right? So what do you feel is right about the trade, or what do you like most about the trade?
Yeah, I would definitely say, for me, it's probably the brotherhood that comes along again with the union aspect of things. Is having that brotherhood, like those guys will have your back no matter what. And then being able to go anywhere in the country and actually anywhere in the world. My tickets, I'm part of an international brotherhood of electrical workers.
Mm-hmm.
So like that whole brotherhood aspect is a major thing. So I can go anywhere knowing, if I go from Washington to the East Coast to the Southwest, wherever I go work, I know that my union brothers, we should have the same training or similar training. We've been through, a similar apprenticeship, and we just know how everything operate for the most part. So knowing that going from job to job is a huge aspect, right?
Yeah, it's like a cohesive work environment. You guys are on the same page.
Exactly. You just know, okay, I know he's got my back. He's my brother. And then, what was the question?
No, I have.
What's right? Okay.
Yeah. So.
And then the other thing is too, along with the brotherhood, the pride is obviously another thing too. Being able to help people is another big aspect. Like I said, working storms and stuff. That's really, really cool. And then of course the money,
The money is good, especially on storms. Like when it comes back to storms, time and time again.
And then you have all your benefits and stuff, your retirement, your health care, and all that stuff's really, really great too.
Yeah, from a career perspective, it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
And this is a question that I often ask people, or try to ask people, is: have you actually seen a lack in a younger workforce going into the line trades? And it's something that I harp on time and time again. And if you do the research, there's such a shortage of line workers, or maybe not line workers, but qualified line workers. And so many of the guys who had been in the trade for 40, 50 years or whatever have retired within the last 10 years. Have you personally noticed just a lack of maybe training, or I don't know what it would be, but in the younger generation? Or is that...
Well, I think I don't think so. I actually feel like there's a lot of the younger generation is getting into it. I don't know that you see a lot of them are going to line school. You just see it on Instagram or whatever. You see a lot of, they're posting pictures, oh, we're at line school, blah, blah, blah. And you see that, and, you kind of wonder, like, what is the reason for getting into the trade? Is it solely for the money, or is it something they're like, man, it's something I really want to do? Because I think there's a gap there. I think a lot of everyone always wants to get rich, make money. Well, yeah, everyone does, but it comes to a point where, like, it's not all about the money all the time. And I think where that gap comes in is the younger generation coming in and being like, I want to be a lineman. They make great money. It's a great career, great benefits, and they're doing it strictly for that. Versus like I came in like, I want to do this because it's sweet work. Yeah, you make great money, great career, all that stuff, but the pride and the brotherhood and all that stuff is worth a lot too. Mm-hmm. So I think the younger generation, I don't know that for a fact. I know there's a lot of younger people getting into it. I just don't know how much of them are doing it for, for the right reason, maybe. Like, but it's just hard to say. I mean, like the apprenticeships, that they're filled with people and from all age ranges. Like when I went through the apprenticeship, there was guys that were in their 40s. I think probably the average age is probably late 20s, early 30s. I don't know if you consider that young.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty young, but it's also looking at the career lengths of those people as well. And the only reason I bring that up is because I was actually talking with somebody from a pretty prominent company yesterday, and they had a massive, 500 kV. They were doing 70 miles or something on a project, and they had to bring in 100 people from the EU. This is a company up in Canada. They had to literally fly people from across the sea to fulfill this project because they could not get enough hands in Canada. So I just think that the line schools look full, right? They're all full, but at the same time, when you look into it, there's such a need for line workers right now. Like, you could virtually go to any state and probably get a job, working, what is that, transmission or distribution or what have you. But that's the only reason I kind of brought that point up. And, obviously with other career options, and obviously like civil engineering, where somebody could sit in a tractor all day and make just as much money these days because the blue collar workforce is so diminished. Who wants to work harder for the same amount of money, right?
Right.
All right, so I guess, what do you look forward to in the next 20 years of the trade? I think you probably will end up fulfilling some sort of leadership position. You just seem like that type of guy. So what are you looking forward to most?
Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
Just the experience. You can, like I said, this job, I mean, you get out what you put in, but the experience you can build from this job is I mean, next to none. Like, what other jobs can you literally go anywhere in this country or even in the world and go work? So, the experiences, fantastic. That's what I look forward to the most, is just building experiences, being able to just travel with work, like, to have opportunities to go other places and see other places and work storms, whatever it could be, and just build that.
Are there any specific experiences, like go clean up after a hurricane or helicopter work?
Yeah, I'd love to do. Yeah, I mean, definitely work hurricanes, or at least one hurricane. That's an experience I like to do. Obviously, I'd like to do long lining, helicopter. I've done helicopter work. I haven't done long lining. Those are. I mean, I'd love to go work in.
Like Puerto Rico or something.
Yeah, Puerto Rico's an option. Like, go work down there.
I know
Virgin Islands.
Quanta's rebuilding basically that whole infrastructure right now. Over the next however many years.
Service life, or so yeah, just those experiences. There's a lot of things I'd like to do, and just see. The trade is small, but it's also so big at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty expansive. I mean, the possibilities once you get in, and if you're a hard worker, there's no reason that you couldn't go anywhere you want. I mean, you could tarnish your name and you'd be banished from the trade pretty quick. You don't want to, commit any mortal sins on the job site. But as long as you put your head down and work hard, I guess.
Yeah, you just have to know your role. Especially in the early stages of trade, whether you're a groundman or apprentice, you just got to know your role. And even as a lineman, just not trying to be cocky, like Lyle linemen are cocky. They have big egos.
Well, for a good reason, kind of.
It is what it is, but, you just got to try to stay humble, and you just want to try to keep learning all the time. Like I said, if you're not learning something every day, then you're doing something wrong, because there's so much to learn. I mean, I've talked to guys who've been linemen for 35 years, and they're like, oh, man, I'm constantly learning something. Like, the trade's always changing, expanding, doing this or that. Like, there's always new things to be learning and doing. So, that's kind of one of those things, All
right, my final question. How many lunches / dinners did you have to buy for your crew or foreman during your apprenticeship program? I know that's pretty common, and it's pretty common for the apprentice to get ran into the absolute dirt. I know once you journey out, there's kind of all of a sudden, boom, you can't tell me what to do anymore, right? Because we're equals in a sense. But how many lunches or dinners do you have to buy?
I don't know. I don't know the number.
It's too many to count, huh?
Yeah, it's between lunches and dinners and buying linemen to sign for my progress report each month.
Yeah.
I can't count. There's just too many. But that's just part of it, right? You know, that's kind of been one of those things. It's what do you call it? It's it's a tradition.
Yeah,
it's been like that for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of they're trying to kind of break up that tradition, because now the new age of.
Well, they're much weaker now.
Yeah, it's a different society now, and everyone's equal and this and that, and you can't talk bad on people or talk down, all that stuff. And I'm not like that anyway, but
it's a woke. We live in a
I don't
woke
mind
culture.
a free lunch and dinner.
Oh yeah, I mean, if Crying Brian had to pay for my lunch,
that's the thing. It's how bad do you want it? Is a $25 dinner is that is that worth it to you? You know what I mean? The way you gotta look at it is if you're a groundman or apprentice, it's not too much to buy your lineman a dinner or even a couple of Red Bulls. How much. Think just how much they try to help you, whether if you get yelled at a lot, but just think about how much they even try to help you every day. Sit down, or you ask them questions. How often do they help you? Whether it be with schoolwork or just if you have general questions about the trade or how to do this or that. How much do they help you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
so they are there to help you, right? Even if they may be a dick.
which I'm sure a lot of them are, right? I mean, because it's a pretty high ego trade, and a lot of them are probably
not all. Not a lot of them are, but I mean, you run into them that are, but.
Yeah, but they seem like
a lot of it,
because...
for the most part, it's like fun and games, right? Like,
yeah.
You might talk a lot of trash, but at the end of the day, it's just that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Like there's no hard feelings for the most part. I mean, there are guys that obviously they talk it and they do mean it, and you will know that they do mean it. But for the most part, it's just fun. Like talk trash to each other. That's just how it is, right? But
yeah, it's all fun and games.
The other thing I was gonna hit on really quick is the getting into an apprenticeship. Just briefly, it's pretty easy. You can just look it up on the Google. You just type in union apprenticeships / JATC. JATC is Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee, and they should pop up on the Google. It's like I went through a Northwest Line Apprenticeship, JATC. There's CalNav, which is California, Nevada. There's Southwest, which is like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and some other state. And there's Midwest, there's Mountain States, which is like Utah, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho. And then you have all the ones on the Eastern and Midwest. So you just look that up, and then each section, like Northwest, CalNav, Southwest, they all have their own website and everything. So you just click on their website, and there should literally be like a link at the top, like information, apply now. And you literally just click apply now. And then you probably have to pay a fee, for like the
a filing fee or something.
Yeah, they're just like a lot of them now have like they have you answer some questions and stuff, and then there's just a fee for like submitting your resume or whatever else you may put in there, and then you get filed or whatever to do an interview with that region, and then you just go from there. But it's pretty easy. Everything's very readily available on the internet. With the time we live in now, like literally everything is on the internet. Like you could type in almost any question, and it should pop up. Like whether it be union, non-union, whatever, it's on there. You might have to dig a little bit deeper for some other questions. And like Zane was saying also, you go on Facebook, lineman groups.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And don't hesitate to reach out to a journeyman, right? There's people who've been in the trade for 30 years, and they're in these lineman groups on Facebook, and, just ask a question in the group. And, I've asked questions in the group, and I've had 400 different comments from 400 different people responding to my question. And I'm not even a lineman myself. I just work with linemen through video and photo. So they're willing to help you out. They're willing to give you answers to whatever you need. You just have to be willing to ask. There's no excuse for laziness. I guess I would
no
say.
Excuse for laziness. You just gotta put in the time. So yeah, I mean.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today, Austin, and giving some quality insights into the trade itself. And hopefully, I can do a few more of these. In fact, I'm going to go on one of these lineman groups and put out a message, see if I can get some more people involved, and at least get a few more interviews that are would help somebody who wants to get into the trade out. Give them some useful information. So I guess that's it for this podcast. You have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know anything. I haven't even been in the trade hardly very long at all. So I don't have all the answers. But if you are in the trade, apprentice, groundman, lineman too, is just never stop learning. I guess I'll emphasize that. There's always something to learn. You're never better than anybody else. I don't care how big your ego is or how big your ego can get. Don't let your pride get in the way. Just know your place. You know what you have to do, and just never stop learning and just keep on grinding. So, yep.
All right. Well, thank you.